Our summer crops are really in full swing in the month of August. They've taken over everything in our garden, giving us a bounty of fresh vegetables to enjoy every single day. On some days, it's hard to keep up with all the fresh stuff that's coming in. Soil temperatures are at or near their peaks and air temperatures are still very warm. But August days are starting to get a little shorter, signaling to the biological clocks of our plants that the end of the growing season is approaching. So it's time for everything to ripen. We started picking cherry tomatoes and some of our summer squash in July, and production really ramps up in August. Our larger tomatoes are starting to come in, and by mid to late August, we'll be swamped with enough tomatoes to make enough tomato sauce to hopefully carry us all the way through the winter. We started making tomato sauce a few years ago, and with the size of our garden, we would be able to make about 3 quarts from each batch of tomatoes that we harvested. Last year, we made about 30 quarts of tomato sauce, and we're hoping for even more this year. Now, the tops of our onion plants have fallen over, and they've started turning brown, telling us that it's time to harvest our onions. We can turn the soil over and use the space we just created to plant a fall crop, like carrots. I try to grow carrots so that we can pick them on Christmas Day. I'll tell you all about why I love to grow carrots in the fall in another video. Our Shishito peppers started coming in during the month of July, and with 5 plants, there are enough Shishito peppers for the 2 of us to enjoy every day or 2 because they just grow so fast. Now, we're also growing sweet peppers, but they need a lot more time to mature. I've got lots of green peppers on those plants, but they're still growing and they won't ripen into the orange, yellow, and red peppers that I'm trying to grow until the end of the month at the earliest. We've started enjoying our first crop of edamame, and with 3 staggered crops, we'll be able to pick and eat edamame every day or so from now well into September. The beans and peas that we planted after our garlic came out last month are growing well, but we still have several weeks to wait before we get anything to harvest. Our young bean plants took a real beating when we got a unexpected surprise hailstorm a few days ago, but I hope they recover. Fortunately, everything else was far enough along and they came through the storm okay. The 1/4-inch hail did knock about a dozen tomatoes off their plants, but other than that, everything did fine. Our cucumbers are coming in now, and just as I had hoped, they're coming in at the same time as our tomatoes. We can add in some fresh scallions and oregano from the garden and a little feta cheese from the store, and we'll be able to enjoy fresh Greek salads just about every day of the month. We've been harvesting okra every day or so, and with about 30 plants, we have a fresh supply almost every single day. A lot of people stay away from okra because they can be snotty if they're not cooked right, but they're super easy to cook, and we've grown to love them. We grew 3 different varieties this year, and our purple okra have been by far the most prolific. We've got more okra from those 10 plants than from the other 20 combined plants from the other 2 varieties that we grew this year. Now, if you did some planning in the springtime, one of the things you can do in August is to think about how things are actually growing versus how you thought things would turn out. Make a couple of notes so you don't forget. Our gardens will teach us, and if we listen to their lessons, we'll get better every year. More on what our gardens teach us in another video on lessons learned at the end of the season. While we're enjoying the bounty that our summer crops bring, it's easy to forget that August is also a month where you should be thinking about starting your cool weather fall crops. Carrots, lettuce, kale, cabbage, radishes, spinach, bok choy, broccoli, pretty much anything that likes cool weather are plants you can start in August and enjoy into September and October. I planted carrots right where my onions just came out, but I have to confess that I start most of my fall crops in trays because I'm still waiting for room to be available for them in the garden. Now, these fall crops will take advantage of the warm soil temperatures when they get started, but they'll grow slower than the seed packets tell us once the air temperatures cool down, which they tend to do as the days get shorter and the nights get cooler starting in August. Plants grown as fall crops will usually take longer than their published days to harvest to be ready, and we should keep that in mind. Look for another video covering days to harvest and how that can be misleading. If you can, choose fall crops that have some frost tolerance like carrots and spinach. Starting these plants in August will give these plants a big head start on the fall growing season. As we get later into October, November, and December, the growth of everything is going to slow down and might even stop. but hopefully by that time, our plants will be well enough established to be able to survive when the really cold weather hits. Last year, we let our carrots freeze and picked them on Christmas Day, something I would highly recommend. Last year's winter turned out to be milder than normal, and we had spinach plants that made it all the way through the winter, so we had garden fresh spinach in February, March, and April. I eventually had to pull the plants to get ready for this year's spring garden. Enjoy your garden in the month of August. It's one of the best months of the year for summer crops.